colleagues, we will be starting the meeting. It's 2 o'clock, so I hereby declare the meeting open. I would love to welcome the members, our support staff, as well as the Minister and her department to this vote for on the Department of Police Oversight and Community Safety. So I declare the meeting duly opened. I would just like to check, first of all, before we get to introductions, have we received any apologies for this meeting?
Good afternoon, Chair, members and officials. No apologies received as yet.
Okay. And any additional members participating or wanting to participate? I don't see anyone on the screen here. All right. And I also don't see anyone standing in as alternates. So, colleagues, if I can ask all the members, just for the purposes of the record, to introduce themselves. I'm Thomas Walters, Chairperson of the Standing Committee.
I'm Benedicta van Minnen, and I'm a member of this committee.
I'm Member Boyson, Chairperson. Good afternoon. Good afternoon to my colleagues, Minister, you and your team. I'm Member Boyson, and I'm a member of this committee.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. I'm Member Stevens, and I'm a member of this committee. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair, Minister, and all members, departmental officials. My name is Wendy Kaiser-Philander, and I'm a member of this committee.
I struggled there with the, I struggled a bit there with the button. Member Glensu, if you can just introduce yourself as well.
Thank you very much. Apologies for the delay. My name is Benson Mensu, the leading behaving member of this committee. Yet robust.
Yeah. If I can ask the Minister, if you can introduce yourself for the purposes of the record and also lead the introductions around your team.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairperson, and good afternoon to all the members of the Standing Committee. I'm Andrew Marie, Minister of Police Oversight and Community Safety in our lovely Western Cape. And I'm going to hand over to our acting HOD, Hilton Arendse, to introduce himself and the committee, the department. Thank you so much.
If you can perhaps unmute yourself, I think you're also a bit slow on the button.
I think you will hear me better if I unmute, Chairperson. Good afternoon, Chairperson. Good afternoon, Minister and members, and also to the POX team. I'm Milton Arendse. I'm Acting Head of Department for Police Oversight and Community Safety. I'm going to ask the members to introduce themselves, and I'll start in as I've got them on the list. Amanda.
Good afternoon, Chairperson and members. My name is Amanda Dissel. I'm Director of Policy and Research.
Thanks, Amanda. Becky.
Good afternoon, Chairperson. My name is Peggy Simelane. I'm the Director Monitoring and Evaluation. Thank you.
Perfect.
Good afternoon, members. I'm Burford Noble, Deputy Director, Budget Management. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Burford. Clarissa.
Good afternoon, Chairperson and members. Clarissa Samuels, Assistant Director, Budget Management.
Thanks, Clarissa. Fred.
Good afternoon, Chairperson and members, Minister, HOD and team. Fred Watkins, Director, Provincial Security Provisioning.
Thanks, Fred. Gillian.
Good afternoon, members. I'm Gillian Lutz, the Director for Security Advisory Services. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Gillian. Justin.
Good afternoon, Chairperson and members. My name is Justin Lottering. I'm the Acting Director for Community Police Relations. Thank you.
Thanks so much. And then Teresa.
Good afternoon, Chairperson, MEC, members. I am Teresa Hanekom, Acting Director for the Crime Prevention Centre.
Thanks so much, Teresa. Minister, and then I'd like to submit apologies for our CFO, Mr. Muhammad Frizlar, and our Director Strategic Services, Ms. Ansaf Mohammed, but they both on leave due to Eid celebrations. And I see next to Burford, we also have another lady, if she can just introduce herself.
Good afternoon, members and colleagues. My name is Maria Voss. I am the acting CFO within the department.
Thanks so much, Maria. Chairperson, that is a team. Over to you again.
Eid Mubarak for the members of the Muslim faith. It's also to our procedural officer, Mr. Matthews. Colleagues, the purpose of the meeting is, as you know, but let me also read it into the record, is to deliberate on vote 4 of the Department of Police Oversight and Community Safety. I'm going to follow a similar approach to yesterday. The colleagues, I'm going to give the Minister and the HOD the opportunity to make introductory remarks. Let me also state that I'm policing the time on the committee members' side for the purposes of getting through the process as thoroughly but yet as timeously as possible. We have X amount of time allocated to it. I can ask the department to also take the same approach. You know, that we are specific and timeous in terms of your inputs and that it's content rich. The approach that we're going to be taking after those introductory remarks, if you look at the document in front of us, we have a first section that deals with the overview, the review of the past budget, and the outlook looking forward. That is one section that we will be dealing first. We're going to assume the document has been read, and I'll give the opportunity 5 minutes in an initial round per member to ask questions on that section. That will be, then I'm going to allow afterwards for follow-up questions. Colleagues, then we will be dealing with Program 1, Program 2, Program 3, Program 4, each one of them individually as sections, exactly in the same way that we've described. And then we'll give an opportunity for the last section as well in terms of the other information that's added at the end of the section. So there is essentially going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 opportunities for questions provided. We did quite well time-wise yesterday. Colleagues, I'm also, while I fully accept that members might bring up individual issues and the department must respond to it, keep in mind that the focus of this meeting is on the vote itself. So I will constantly be bringing back any discussion back to the vote in front of us, that we don't have a different conversation that either belongs in future meetings or alternatively under recommendations and requests for information at the end. So once we've concluded our interrogation of the document, I don't believe anyone has requested public input, but we'll deal with that section there. And after that, the department will be excused and the committee will deliberate first of all on requests for information and possible resolutions of the committee separate from the budget itself. Then we'll be tabling the budget vote. We'll deal with it there, and then we'll deal with the committee report. So colleagues, on that note, if I can hand over to the Minister and the HOD to make some brief introductory comments.
Thank you, Chairperson. As we all know, safety is a basic human right enshrined in our Constitution, and every resident, whether in the Cape Flats, our rural districts, or our urban centres, deserves to live free from fear and to pursue opportunities and to thrive in resilient communities. And this budget and strategic plan for our department is both a reflection on the progress we have made and a firm commitment to addressing the persistent safety challenges faced by the people of the Western Cape. And that's my introductory remarks, and I will hand over to our HOD, Hilton Arendse. Thank you so much, Chairperson.
Thanks so much, Chief Minister, and thanks, Chairperson. Chair, I'll be as brief. So, Chair, we have been presented with a budget. We have been allocated a budget by our Provincial Treasury. In essence, we are continuing with much of the work that we've done last year. That includes LEAP, the expanded public works program, rural safety program, the Neighbourhood Watch and the community policing forums, the Chrysalis Academy, Western Cape Liquor Authority. We're strengthening that one, and we've got 1.443 million to strengthen the Liquor Authority, Ombudsman, and then we've got work that we're doing in terms of oversight of SAPs. We do monitoring and evaluation, and then also we've got the security services for the province that we have, the security and risk management. So we'll be continuing with those work during the next year. And however, our focus and the way that we'll be doing it and approach to it will differ significantly. We did receive extra money in the form of 2 million rand, and that was for the Provincial Safety Coordination Centre. And that is in essence a centre that we want to establish to coordinate all safety interventions throughout the province to see whether we can effect synergies to eliminate duplication, to improve integration, and to also make sure that that centre holds all the statistics that we require and be available to us at any time, and especially when the Standing Committee requires that information. But more importantly, when we need to make information on our strategies, be it short-term or long-term, and also inform our decision-making and our planning. So, Chair, we have the team here that will be responding to the questions. We have prepared for the session, and we open and we're happy to address all of the questions or the comments by the committee, and also any recommendations that we can take forward. I'll hand it back to you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, the first section that we will be dealing with is, as I mentioned earlier, the overview, the review, and the outlook for the next financial year, pages 129 to 140. As I said, we assume that everyone studied the document, so we can go straight to the questions. So I'm taking hands from members that have questions on those sections. Please indicate the page number as well to assist with the answering of the questions. Member van Minnen.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much to the department for being here. My question pertains to page 135.4, service delivery risks. And it says here, the limited ability of a department to influence the allocation of the policing resources for the Western Cape province. Now, I think it was either the end of last year, the beginning of this year, when we had the presentation for the PNP. And, you know, I asked the question then that I'm really still concerned with. There were certain gaps in the PNP, and if I remember correctly, the department is going to come back to us. I'm just concerned about this limited ability of the department, because at the end of the day, in terms of the Community Safety Act, one can monitor, but it's really very, very difficult to influence how one actually deals with the issues of safety in the province when one has such a limited ability to influence the allocation of policing resources. I just want to know if there's been any progress in that regard, and if in the amendments coming into the Community Safety Act, we will potentially see a situation where we can start having more influence there, because that's really how one changes people's lives on the ground. Thank you.
Member Gwensu.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think I must also welcome the budget presented by the MEC and her collective. Look, I've page 129. You know, I think on vision, it is not as, for me, MEC, a vision is not a slogan, but is what you want towards. Thus, there must be perhaps possible set of objectives to work towards it. Now, In your vision, you say, you call for community. Okay, you make a statement that communities shall be safe, caring, and resilient. Now, please help clarify us on this particular question. As to what are you talking about this particular question, given the state of many communities in the Western Cape? Are you talking about Camps Bay? Are you talking about Dragon Fair, or are you talking about Khayelitsha and Mitchell's Plain? If you say Camps Bay, I may agree with no further questions. But if you say Khayelitsha and Nyanga, I'm going to pose a question as to how will Black working class communities become safe and caring if they live in squatter camps and swimming in a sea of poverty and unemployment? Or you do not see the relationship between what I often characterize as a relationship between the chronic crisis of underdevelopment and crime. So please elaborate government plans to ensure the realization of this noble, unless you are talking about another communities, not the communities where we live, and communities in Cape Town where there are about 150 squatter camps. That's the first question. The second question related to law enforcement advancement plan. And this is an important program in the fight against crime. Here's the issue. The provincial government is funding the program whose control and coordination is at the level of the city on the one hand. On the other hand, the provincial oversight body in the form of the standing committee has limited role or has no role to exercising its oversight role as a basis to follow our money. So how do you intend to address this conundrum? Now, and to what extent MSC is South African Police Service involved in the deployment of LEAP? To what extent are they involved, right? And what is the latest on the matter regarding the unfair dismissal of LEAP officers? I think they were dismissed last year or last of last year. Page 132, question 3. As part of your support or communal role to subs, how far are you in ensuring that subs get admin clerks? This commitment was made in the 6th administration that the provincial government shall provide admin clerks, given the current state of the South African Police Services. The fourth question related to neighborhood watches. According to your budget, you say you shall fund neighborhood watch, and we support that. We're happy that you're going to fund them. But it's important, Chair, to ask the question, but what are you funding? What are you funding? Because in your budget statement, you are describing first aid, finance, etc., as the key issues you are funding in neighborhood watch. No, what? Yes, in neighborhood watches. Or what do you understand as a core task of neighborhood watches? I'm making this statement simply because on Saturday, I was invited by neighborhood watches in Ward 87 under Councillor Khayelitsha to come inside C to interface with them. And one of the issues they faced was the under-resourcing, that they're under-resourced, and it therefore make us to understand or believe that maybe tools for neighborhood watches, reflective jacket and bicycle. What is your commitment to addressing this issue, and what do you understand as key tools of trade for this important unit called neighborhood watches? Page 134. There's an idea about what is termed, Chair.
Prinsu, you need to start wrapping up. I'm going to give you another 2 minutes.
There's the idea to develop, we're in a committee, Chair. A committee should be different from the House.
Member Gwensu, I've made a ruling. So
We are in a
there's also an
committee, Chair.
opportunity for follow-up questions.
A committee has to be different from a House. I
Listen,
don't think you
Member
should
Gwensu,
defend the executive unnecessary from accountability.
Member Gwensu, the rules are clear of the House.
Now,
is clear.
To develop a
please
capability
conclude.
majority matrix. And now, for me, having read this initiative you are bringing and its purpose, it appears that the department unwitting or wittingly devalues the same PNPs we adopted the past years, because the challenges the police service faces are known, do not need any of this kind. So why do you think this is important? Right now, I think let me pause there for the moment, that you address this question of the CMM and its purpose. Where I stand, the challenges facing the salary police are known, and therefore it is important that your department provide concrete support to South African police services. Thank you very much.
Member Stevens.
Thank you, Chair. My question is also from page 29 to page 35 on the LEAP officers. Despite the deployment of over 1,000 LEAP officers, mass murders continue to occur in areas like Bishop Lavis, Yokaya, even in areas like Kraaifontein. What adjustments will be made to improve the effectiveness of the safety plan? And how does the province measure the impact of the LEAP officers on reducing violent crime? And have there been any tangible improvements? That's for now, Chair. Thank you.
Just a question from my side. If you look at just find the right page, the medium term, the strategic framework that was part of the government of national unity, you referred in the document to, there's a focus on fewer but high impact interventions to drive measurable results. A lot of what you say in the document, that's on page 132. A lot of what you are saying refers to specific high impact interventions. And a concern of mine is that the department is in a sense starting to do a lot of functions that should frankly be funded or assisted with by the national government in this regard, whose constitutional mandate it is. So in terms of the memorandum of understanding, are there any possibilities of the national government funding programs and expanding programs like, for example, the court watching brief, the LEAP program, the neighborhood watch funding potentially as well? What is the progress there in terms of the working groups that you've been referring to get additional resources from the national government? That would be a good start from my side. So it's page 131 in terms of the medium-term strategic framework at a national level. I see a member Kasim has joined us and has a hand up. Member Kasim, if you can just introduce yourself for the record as well and pose your questions. Our first rounds of question are 5 minutes per member. So over to you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I'm member Aisha Kasim, a member of the committee. Chairperson, mine is just two for now. I just wanted to check in terms of funding to neighborhood watches. Are all neighborhood watches registered in the province going to get assistance and funding, or is it only specific neighborhood watches? And then also, is there an indication as to which neighborhood watches across the different regions in the province? And then secondly, I'm very curious to know how money is being spent when it comes to intervention on drugs and gangsterism, especially on the Cape Flats. I've been scrolling through the book and I don't see much that is mentioned about how much is being given to intervene when it comes to drugs and gangsterism. So if I can maybe just get clarity or an idea as to what is currently being pumped into when it comes to intervening when it comes to drugs and gangsterism on the Cape Flats. Thank you, Chairperson.
I do not see any other hands. Over to the Minister and the HOD. And please also keep your responses specific to the questions that were asked, so we work through the document carefully.
Thank you, Chairperson. I will answer the resilience questions to the best of my ability for Member Nguntsu, if I've got the name right now, sorry about that, Benson. You know, it's a difficult question about resilience, but on that same page, on page 132, there is the MTDP replaces the medium, the whole paragraph there that you also read just now. And we will do inclusive growth and job creation. That's an apex priority. And it's driving economic interventions across all spheres of government. And it's also a whole of society approach. It's not easy to build resilience in our communities, but we really try our best with departments, with social development, health, economic development, to see how we can curb this terrible violence in our communities and then the social fabric that's broken. So we really try our best from our side. As you know, policing alone cannot combat the crime on our Cape Flats. So that's the one from my side. I'm hand over to HOD. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Minister. Chairperson, I'll start with Member van Minen's point, and then I'll ask the rest of the team to just respond to some of those matters where they deem where they can respond better. So the limited ability to influence the resourcing, it is a challenge because we expect to do more, and SAPs are expected to do more, and we can only advocate for more and push them for more resources. However, what we are doing is that we're supplementing that resources through the LEAP program and through our safety officer program. Of course, you know that SAPS is a national government body just like we are. They have a limited budget. They can only appoint X number of people. There isn't an unlimited pool of funds. But we now need to, and that's where the LEAP program comes in. That's where the work that we're doing with the municipal, the rural LEAP and the canine units, that's where that work's coming to supplement the work that they cannot get to and to assist. Chair, it does, however, link to your point right at the end where you said, it seems as if we are doing the work that should be funded by national departments. And you're right. We can put in unlimited resources from our side. Firstly, our resources will not have the power of SAPS, but we try our best to supplement it to make sure that there's an impact on those areas where those resources are deployed, such as the LEAP resources and the number of areas that we deploy the LEAP resources, and the fact that it does make a difference in those areas. So, Chair, with the idea of this whole process is to effect synergies by pooling resources, understanding where there's a critical need for SAPs, and seeing that we do not have the ability to control or to influence, we have limited ability to control or influence, we use the levers that we have to supplement those resources. And the question of will the amendments to the Safety Act speak to it? Remember, I'm hoping that we'll be able to write something in the Safety Act. We have not thought about how we're going to articulate it, but it will be good if we can. But that will be subject to our legal team advising us on what's possible and what's not possible in the Safety Act. The Minister has covered a member's comment on the community are safe, caring and resilient. I will not cover that again, Chairperson. And can I now ask my team to respond to firstly to the question on the LEAP? So just the broad question that we are funding a program for which we have no control over, and that goes to the city. That is not the truth, Chairperson. They are doing the operations with the Metro Police and with SAPS. So there is a body of work that's been done with SAPS, and specifically in the hotspot areas with SAPS, the city, and the LEAP officers that work together. But in essence, the number of LEAP officers deployed, where they are deployed, and when they get reassigned, those get controlled by us. And I can confirm that if, for example, recently, not if, when recently there was an upflare of violence in Lentegeur, the Commissioner Roberts of the City of Cape Town sent me a WhatsApp and says to me, we need to divert our resources immediately to Lentegeur. Can we get approval? And we give approval and they go. So it's not entirely true that it's up to the city and they run with it. We are controlling and we have as much say in the lead deployments as the City of Cape Town. They're the executing, but as it comes to strategy and tactics and where they go, that is we play a key role. And as I said, the hotspot policing, that is a collaboration process with the city, the province, and which is through LEAP, and then SAPS where they are deployed at the Delft, Nyanga, Kailicha, and Guguletu stations at this stage. Chair, I cannot comment on the dismissal of the LEAP and what is the station and what is the status on that. I will have to come back on what is the status of the dismissal, but that's an HR question and something that we will request from the City of Cape Town to respond to. The point on, can I pass over to Becky? The question is whether we provide admin clocks. Let me rather put it to Teresa. I think she'll know better because specifically links to Chrysalis. Do we provide admin clocks to SAPS? Teresa, if you can respond to that one.
Thank you, HOD. Ma'am, from the Chrysalis as graduates that has graduated last year of a minimum of 600, we have placed at least 300 of that 600 was placed at SAPS in an administrative capacity to help exactly with the detectives and the HR officers, etc. So we have provided at least 300 strong young admin clerks to the police in assisting them with the overload of admin work. As far as the unfair dismissal that you are talking about, I just want to say all dismissals are taking place in accordance with the City of Cape Town's disciplinary processes, which is the same for all law enforcement officials. And I can assure you that there's no unfair dismissals that are taking place because they all have a very strong union representation when these matters are being dealt with as well to ensure that it is fair. In terms of the question that Ma'am Stevens asked, despite the deployment, Bishop Lavis, Kailicha and Kraaifontein is showing increases in as you've mentioned, what adjustments are made, how we measure it, and any improvements. I just wanted to say that at this stage, a decision was taken in September 23 to actually have a pilot specifically in Delft to understand if we increase the number of LEAP officers, whether it will make a difference. And after a couple of months, we have noticed that we've stabilized the area, this is now in 2023, and the murder rate came down. And as a result of that best practice, we have then decided to, upon the instruction of the principals, decided to roll it out. And in March 24, there was a decision that we take the existing resources that we have for LEAP and we focus that on the 6 priority areas where the murders are the most, and also with a blend of where the gang violence are the most. And we are at that point at the moment where we need to evaluate the impact. But I just wanted to say that I'm not sure, Amanda, if you can help me here, but the preliminary SAPS stats that we got now in Q3, ma'am, shows that for the province, there was a 7.9% decline in the murders of the province, whilst in this LEAP areas, the way we've concentrated the LEAP deployment law enforcement officers, jointly, we've recorded a 14.9%, which is basically double. in terms of the murders. So we have definitely made impact in terms of the strategy that we have implemented. Ma'am, we measure it through impact assessments, and as I say, we are at the start at the moment where we are identifying key factors that we want to look at in terms of the quantitative and qualitatively what impact our program has made. Unfortunately, we have withdrawn at the moment from Bishop Lavis and Kraaifontein. We have no longer deployments there. But as I say, the current deployments will be reviewed, and based on our most recent trends of murder, priority stations can change.
Okay. Thanks so much, Teresa. Chairperson, I am going to ask Justin or Becky to just respond to the funding to the neighborhood watches. How is that going to be funded, and what are we funding in that space? Chairperson, I do apologize, but Anne-Marie Marshall, the director in the specific unit, she's sick, she's in hospital at the moment, and Becky is acting chief director and also taking charge, but that's why I'm just checking with Becky whether he'll be responding or whether I can forward it to Justin. Becky?
Thank you, HOD, and good afternoon again, Chairperson and honorable members. HOD, I will defer the question on the neighborhood watch to Justin, but safe to say that the department funds all neighborhood watch that are accredited. So when neighborhood watch applies and get accredited, the department will fund it. I don't know, Chair, whether I can answer the question on the issue of maturity while Justin is preparing to answer the question on neighborhood watch.
Becky, I think you can respond on the CMM. I think that's appropriate.
The SAPS capability maturity index, it is not in any way, Chair, nullifying the work that the PNP is doing. It is a process that we are developing, something that we define as a very innovative idea to measure the capability of each and every police station in the province. It entails us using a compendium of oversight indicators to determine the level of maturity per station. And such rating, Chair, will enable us to determine as to how then we can do exactly what you have said. How would we assist this up to improve their maturity level, their performance, and it directs intervention to specific areas within the police service to improve service delivery. Thank you.
Thanks, Becky. Justin, are you ready to respond on the neighborhood watches?
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah,
so
thank you.
The question specifically is, are all neighborhood watches funded, and what do we fund?
Thank you very much for that. I think Becky already answered the question, are all neighborhood watch funded? It is only accredited neighborhood watches. So neighborhood watch structures do apply to be accredited, and the accreditations have got a certain criteria. When they are accredited, there are three things that we fund. The first one, we fund them with resources in the form of a starter pack that they receive upon accreditation, and that starter pack can include visibility burps. It can include torches as well, a number, and so on. And then the second one is funding money. They can apply for funding for a project, or they can use the funding for, say, for instance, there are 20 members and they in their resources kit, the starter pack, they receive 10 BIPs and 2 torches, and they can supplement that in terms of the funding that they receive. The funding is limited to 10,000 Rand as per the neighborhood watch regulations. And then the third one that we fund them, not directly fund them, but it is training. So we also provide training to them. So those are the three tools of the trade that we provide. I can also mention here that there are a number of structures that received jackets. The neighborhood watchers receive jackets as well as part of their tools of trade. I mentioned the starter kits, and then there are some structures that also received radios. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Can I then ask the Amanda? Amanda, can you cover the question on money spent on gangs and drugs?
Yes, Chairperson. So in respect of gangs and drugs, we haven't gotten any additional budget from the department to put into programs around this. But as part of our role in coordinating the provincial anti-gang implementation plan, we are working very closely with, excuse me, with all provincial departments, as well as with the SAPs and the city law enforcement officers, to see how we can better allocation of resources and programming to gang-affected areas. We have identified 6 priority areas, which we are trying to crowd in resources into those areas. But not only are we trying to ensure that the resources are deployed to those areas, but also we are looking at what are the actual services that they are rendering in those particular areas. So this is part of our ongoing project to work with all these government departments to find out what they're doing, how many people they are reaching out to, what are the programs that they're implementing, and in the long term, we hope to look at what is the impact of those. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Chair, and then I'll just comment on once again on your question, which was the funding, the project refunding, and I acknowledge that we have, in the absence or with the lack of resourcing and funding on SAP side, as I said, we have then deployed LEAP and the Chrysalis team, as you've indicated, as Teresa indicated, more than 300 admin staff, 2 SAPs, there's the rural LEAP, the K9 unit. So those are things that we try to complement and to make up for the lack that SAPs do not have. But it also gives us some sort of control in terms of where those people need to go and where the pressures need to be applied and where the action need to be. So on the one hand, yes, we're supplementing, but on the other hand, it's also something that that allows us some sort of control over the deployment. So just the court watching brief is actually a provincial initiative, so that is why we will keep with the provincial initiative, and we'll fund that one. Just we're having some issues with access to the dockets, but that is actually an initiative that started in the Western Cape. Then lastly, Chair, I have forgotten to introduce 2 members in the team. It's Yasina. If I can just ask Yasina Pillay to introduce herself, and then also Simeon George from the Liquor Authority. My apologies for missing them right at the beginning. Chair, can I just ask him to introduce himself quickly, and then we can continue? Yasina?
Thank you, HOD. Through you, Chair. Good afternoon, Honourable Chair and members. Yasina Pillay, Chief Director, Security Risk Management.
Thanks, Yasina. Simeon? You're on mute, Simeon.
Hi, good afternoon, Simeon George. Heading up the administration at the WCLA. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Chair, that's our responses, and then also the final team members have just been introducing themselves. Thanks. Over to you, Chair.
Colleagues, on the same section, pages 129 to 140, can I do a round of follow-up questions and inputs? So colleagues, and also keep in mind that the focus of this meeting is questions to the department. We will further deliberate as a committee as well. So I see Member Kasim, I see your hand.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I've noted the response with regards to how much is going to be spent on drugs and gangsterism. And looking at the response that was given, it means, or it indicates that when a decision was taken with regards to the budget that's been presented, drugs and gangsterism was not included. So I want to check in terms of that 6 priority areas, only 6 priority areas in the entire Western Cape. Which are those 6 priority areas exactly? When you say there's no budget or additional funds and that you're going to go look for resources elsewhere, what exactly are you going to be doing in those 6 priority areas, and where exactly is that priority areas out of the whole Western Cape? Thank you, Chairperson.
Member Twensu.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm not sure that I should forgive you for on the manner with which you pronounce my surname because you continue to degenerate. Okay. Look, on the question about admin clerks, a response was provided, if I hear you correct, that subs was provided with about 600. I think that's students and so on. Now, I understand that the PNP, right, helps to guide what is needed and how many. Is this 600 sufficient? And where is this 600 deployed? You know, because this is important so that we can be able to understand the value and the dividends thereof. The second one relates to the neighborhood watches. I did not get you, I could not hear you properly in respect to how you're resourcing them beyond beyond reflective jackets, right? And isn't perhaps handling of those who are committing crime not part of your training or should not be part of your training? You know, I think this is important given the nature of their work. And I think the issue of LEAP, again, you are saying, and you take it as oversight. It may be administrative oversight when Roberts calls you or consult with you to say, listen, there is a need for LEAP at a particular area, but it's not political oversight. Political oversight is exercised at this level, right? And it appears that there is some degree of limitations, and something which for me is a problem because it's our money ought to follow it, you know, as this level, you know. So I could not also hear your response on the involvement of the South African Police Service when deployment of future is decided about LEAP officers in these targeted areas. Those are my, follow-up questions, Chair. Thank you very much.
Colleagues, I saw a third hand. I think it was Member Stevens, and then their hand went down again. Member Stevens, do you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, okay, yes, Chair, I'll ask the question anyway. Seeing that the LEAP officers was removed from Bishop Lavis in Kryfontein. Now in Kryfontein, they were removed last year before December sometime. They were removed from the areas. I would like to know how many murders was since December up to now, just in the Kryfontein area alone. Because I know of quite a few murders. Like there was like the past month, there's a murder every week in the Kryfontein area. Every single week there's a murder or the police must come out for gang fights in the Scottsville area alone. In the week, they came out twice. So I think the gangsters at the moment are taking the Kryfontein area for a joke because they know exactly that when there's no manpower and then they're taking the chances. And that is ever since the LEAP officers was removed from the areas. Thank you, Chair.
As a Philander.
Chairperson, thank you very much. Chair, I do not wish to ask a question, Chair. I just want to raise a point of order, Chairperson, in terms of our business of this afternoon in the interrogation of the relevant vote. And I do not dispute that the members' questions are invalid. Indeed, they are. But just making the connection to the relevant page and the line item or the budget item will be helpful, Chair. Thank you.
Colleagues, let's try to refer to the page number. It assists us to find the specific documents to, or the specific place in the document that you're referring to. On the other hand, I also have to say some of the follow-up questions are based on the responses from the department. So I think there is, I'm also going to allow follow-ups that are based on the responses that we received. So in this sense, it's more than the document we're dealing with. Colleagues, the key thing is that we, in terms that when we get to the next section, we are fully informed for our own deliberations that we're going to do as a committee. So keep that in mind. Member Kasim, I saw your hand as well. Okay, Member
Thank you,
Glensu.
Chairperson. Chairperson, I think that you responded to the question that I was going to ask about follow-ups being based on what is given to us from the department. I also just wanted to do my last follow-up question on the section with regards to the LEAP officers that were removed from Kraaifontein. I just wanted to check if the department maybe have a response as to what came about on that decision to remove LEAP officers or the specific deployment from an area that's infested with drugs and gangsterism and crime as well, like the previous member said. And then also what is there a replacement, seeing that those ones has been removed, and where exactly, when they were removed, where did they go to from there? Thank you, Chairperson.
Member Glensu?
No, I'm not sure whether you have ruled on the point made by member.
Should I repeat the ruling? What I said was, please assist in terms of questions with the page numbers. So I do believe Member Kaiser Philander has a point. But what I also ruled is if there's a follow-up question based on the responses that we received, that's also in order. So colleagues, we don't need to get stuck on that. I believe that we are in order as we are proceeding at the moment. Member Kaiser Philander?
Just for the record, Chairperson, I accept your ruling. Thank you.
Right, Member Glensu, do you have further follow-up questions?
No, Chair. It was just a generalized statement made, and I would appeal that as when one is off track, then we're told that so and so is out of order, than a general statement. What I believe, all of those who have spoken raise their issues within the context of the budget. And some have read the entire document. Thank you very much.
Colleagues, as I said, I believe that the meeting is operating in order. So just from my side, I also have a question. You made reference to the capability maturity matrix that's assessing police stations. Now, I welcome that in the sense that I think the more we have a systematic evaluation of police stations, that will certainly assist us. But the follow-up question is part of the evaluation that we are doing as part of the mandate, well, also of the department as well as this committee, is it's not just based on the police station and its needs, but also community needs and crime patterns in the community. So my first question is, what are you only looking at police stations and their capabilities there, or are you also assessing that against a community needs assessment in terms of crime? That's my first question. My second question is also, what role does the comparison of data out of this process, the Department of Health, the Department of Education, and the Department of Social Development, what role does that play in terms of the CMM? And then also my question was, well, it was not to point out that there's a national mandate and there's a provincial mandate. I think we're all aware of it. In terms of the provincial mandate, in terms of accessing further financial support for programs that are actually within the national mandate, what is the progress in terms of the memorandum of understanding in terms of obtaining further funding for projects like LEAP? So I just want you to revisit that question. Over to the Minister and the team.
Thank you. I'm going to hand over to HOD.
Thanks so much, Minister. Chair, I'm just going to put something quickly on the screen. Can you see what's on the screen, Chairperson? So this is the Western Cape Safety Act. And when we go to 21.4, it says the provincial parliament may require the executive head of a municipal police service to appear before it or any of its committees to answer its questions. So, Minister Quensu, I'm trusting that that addresses that specific issue. It's in the Western Cape Safety Act, and the committee has the power to summon the executive head of municipal police for its oversight. And my apologies for not covering that point earlier, because
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir. But I wanted to make the point that it's not as if we give the money to them and there's no control over it from our side, and there you see that you have the ability to call the LEAP team or the head of municipal police in terms of that specific section. Chair, then I'd like to go to the question posed by Ms. Kasim, Member Kasim, on the drugs and gangsterism. So when she said that by the time that we made the decision that we have not taken into account the issue of drugs and gangsterism, I'm going to refer it once again to Amanda just to cover the issue of the 6 priority areas. Amanda?
Yes, so in terms of the 6 priority areas, and so these areas were all decided by discussion amongst all the different role players. We had the SAPS, the provincial government, the city role players all together, and where we discussed the 6 areas and selected the 6 areas. And that was based on an understanding of which are the highest, some of the highest gang affected areas, but also one where we thought it was most likely to have an impact if we did an intervention there. So the areas that we identified were Atlantis, Hanover Park, Mitchell's Plain, Manenberg, Delft, and Khayelitsha. And some of them don't appear to be typical gang areas such as Delft and Khayelitsha, but we did note that there's an emergence of township-based gangs which are different from or an offshoot of some of the typical numbers gangs that are prevalent in the coloured areas. So these are the areas that we are focusing on. Also, just to mention that we have been engaging in the anti-gang implementation plan also with the National Police, the NPA and the Department of Justice. So this is a whole of government approach where we are trying to address these problems. And as I say, you know, with all the budget cuts that everybody is experiencing, what we're trying to do is to understand how we can make more of an impact with the same limited resources that are available. I also just wanted to say that in respect of some of the other areas, maybe just to note that where LEAP has been withdrawn from some of the areas, for example, such as Kraaifontein, we are looking to work in conjunction with the Institute of Security Studies, the SAPS at City of Cape Town, to implement an evidence-based policing project, which is going to go beyond it will be implemented in the 6 LEAP areas, or the 6 areas where LEAP is currently deployed, as well as in 3 additional areas, which will include Kraaifontein, Mufuleni, and another area. So there will
Grassy Park.
Grassy Park, thank you. So there will be 9 areas that will cover and it will have a specific focus with this hotspots policing approach. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Amanda. Chair, if I can continue, but I see there's a hand up, Chair. You're on mute, Chairperson. Chair, you're on mute.
Chairperson, you are muted.
Oh,
Yeah, you put
my
up your camera.
go on. My camera went on, but my mic didn't go on. Member Boyson, is it a point of order?
No, it's not a point of order, Chairperson. I'd like to add on the leap question that were asked, Chairperson.
Yeah, Member Boyson, it is in the middle of the presentation. What I will do is I don't want follow-up questions in the middle of the presentations there. I'll give another round of follow-up questions after these responses.
Okay, Chair. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Chair. Then I'll continue in terms of the admin clerks. So, member, you did ask that said that the PNP has to guide what is needed. So yes, the PNP provides a guide in what is needed, but it's not our responsibility, Western Cape government's responsibility, to really fulfill those resourcing. That should be coming from SAPS, and we indicate where there's the highest need and expect them to fulfill that need. And we know that they're not able to fulfill that need. And as you said, our commitment that we'll assist with administrative capacity, we have provided that. And the SAPs deploy those administrative capacity. You asked where those 300 resources have been deployed. We will provide you with a list of where those 300 resources have been deployed. You understand if we do not have the information and can read the information offhand at this stage. But the PNP does guide the need. But we work with SAPs and with the City of Cape Town to understand how they resource the different areas, and we also identify through our data what are the areas that requires the most intervention. But in this case, the administrative staff, they have deployed those administrative staff. I am going to ask once again, going to ask Justin to just respond to how do we resource the neighborhood watches beyond the reflective jackets, or maybe I should respond to it myself, member. I do not think that we can now go and train the neighborhood watchers in combating crime and apprehending criminals. And I do not think that is the idea of the neighborhood watchers to now arrest people also, because they do not have the capacity to arrest. And we also run the risk if we now train them how to arrest people and how to disarm people, that becomes their role. And if something happens, we will be liable. So while I understand your request, I do think perhaps training them in mediation is perhaps something, but we cannot go in terms of how to handle criminals when they need to arrest them. I will guard against us moving into that area where it's really the SAP's responsibility to do that. I'll say negotiation, mediation, de-escalating situations, but not trying to go and make that a trained capacity or capacitate them and training them in that sense, and then that becomes the function. So the political oversight, I think I've covered that, and and then the involvement of future of SAPs, in the deployment of the LEAP officers. So Amanda just spoke about the expansion of the LEAP, so the hotspot areas. So we will be expanding the hotspot areas from 6 to 9. And where we have, in some cases, it will overlap with where the LEAP resources are. In some cases, SAPs will do the hotspot policing on their own. In the absence of additional funding, we also only have limited funding to assign to LEAP officers. So in the absence of additional funding, we cannot assign SAPs or LEAP resources to each of the hotspot areas or where the hotspot patrol areas that the SAPs are going to undertake. As I said, in some areas they will do it without LEAP officers. But yes, there's a team that sit together when we discuss the hotspot policing and the deployment of LEAP officers in those hotspot policing areas. The issue of the LEAP members removed from Kraaifontein, how many murders? Member Stevens, I will not be able to give you the murders exactly in Kraaifontein. If I go through my stats on my computer, I will be able to get it. But the whole issue of the removal of the LEAP officers from Kraaifontein was to make sure that we now concentrate the number of LEAP officers into those areas where we've deemed to be the highest murder areas. And we've communicated to the committee also. You've asked the same questions in that committee. We asked, why are we taking away the people from Kraaifontein, and also people from Atlantis complained, but we needed to make sure that the LEAP program really works, and we need to understand how it will work. And it's a numbers game. The more numbers you put into an area, the better you'll start controlling in that specific area. If we could flood it with 1,000 LEAP officers in one area, I think we would have had much better success. I think Venezuela, they've proved if you can put in the massive numbers in there, you will make an impact. So unfortunately, we had to look at the data, and it was reduced. However, as has been indicated now by Amanda, Kraaifontein is one of the areas we will now apply hotspot policing. We will look at when is the times when the crimes are committed most, and the police will, visible policing will do their rounds. And what we have spoken or informed them is that during those times that it's not, let me call red hours. So I do not know the technical term that they use, but let's do it a red hour, when that is the time when the most murders occur or the most violent crimes occur. That is when SAPS will be patrolling. In the hours where it's a blue hour, that will be where we'll ask our neighborhood watch to be patrolling, but doing that hotspot policing. So we need to do it differently because we just do not have the numbers to push into those specific areas. And then chairperson, the capability maturity matrix. So your question is quite an interesting one. You're asking whether we will correlate it against the community needs. So what we have done, we've done the presentation to SAPS to show them what we are envisaging to do with the capability maturity matrix, and they buy into the concept. We've had a discussion specifically with General Forskell, and he bought into it. And what we looked at is we're first going to use the tool to benchmark it in a high crime area. We benchmark it in one of the model stations. So we're going to benchmark that, and we're going to use that model to test it against various stations to see whether the model is working, whether it's robust, and it gives us the results that they've perceived to be according to their perception and their assessments that they've done in the past. But I do not think that we have assessed it against that we've gone that far yet to look at how do we assess it against the needs of those specific communities. And I suppose once you apply that tool, because the tool will be applied once we tested the robustness of the tool against those specific stations. I think we're going to use 25 stations, which once we've assessed it, then we will be assessing and to test whether it's working and whether we need to tweak it. And once we start assessing all stations, I think the important thing is to look at what is the maturity level and what is the crime rates in those specific areas. That will be the next step. But at this stage, we're more focused on getting the model right and getting a credible model in place. And I think the point that to make, and I'll take it also as a recommendation going forward. I'm not going to say that we thought about it, but that will be a useful exercise to do going forward in saying, now that we've got the model, we've got the different station depending and assess them according to maturity. So how does that impact, and how does it correlate to the crime in those areas? It might be a direct correlation, or there might be an inverse correlation between the two, but we do not know. We're waiting on the data to tell us that. And then you've also asked, what role does comparison of the data with DOHW and WCED and DST? Once again, we've not evolved to that stage yet. It's now firstly getting the model in place, because chairperson need to understand, we need to convince SAPS that this model will be of value to them, because it is of value to us, because all our monitoring and evaluation efforts will now be focusing on those stations with the low levels of maturity and making sure that they improve the maturity level. But I'll take that also once again as a recommendation that as a further step, we need to look at how do we correlate and bring the other departments' data in to give us a richer picture going forward. And then the provincial mandate, what is the progress in terms of the MOU? So Chair, the whole idea of the MOU is to effect synergies, to see how do we pool our resources in order to get the maximum impact, because currently everybody's going in their own spaces. So the one premise of the MOU is that there's no new funding coming in. Each come with their own funding, and we see how best use it to get the best effect. I'll make an example. Drone resources. So SATI has got drones, SAPS has got drones. How do we make sure that we use both entities drones so that SAPs might be able to use their drones elsewhere and not use it in the city where the city has drone and then work together. So it's more about sharing resources, pooling resources, but that MOU does not give us automatic access to additional funds, either through SAPs or through our own budgeting process. Thanks, Chair.
Colleagues, I'm going to, particularly because Member Boyson, I don't recall him asking a question, I'll give an opportunity for another round of quick follow-up questions. So colleagues, another round of follow-up questions. Member Boyson, you had your hand up.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, mine is not a question, mine is a comment. And I'd like to apologize, Chairperson, for interrupting Mr. Arendse. Chairperson, I want to come to the issue, and hopefully it will deal with our concerns regarding LEAP officers and law enforcement. My understanding, Chairperson, is that it is a collaboration between the department, ourselves as the province, SAPS, and the Metro. And at times, and I feel for the officials, at times, we hammer them over stats, crime stats in the areas because we're aware of what is happening in some of the areas, and those stats are our SAPs. But what I want to get at, and it links to the collaboration between the different spheres and departments. I've listened to the budget speech of the mayor of the Metro, and in his speech, Chairperson, he related to the fact that the Metro has made provision for LEAP officers and law enforcement for all the wards going forward after the approval of their budget. So hopefully we would wait for that period, and to be specific, he even gave a number of 700. And so hopefully, Chairperson, we would then see the difference going forward, especially now that a commitment has been made that all wards would have these safety officers. Thank you.
Right, colleagues, let's move to the next section, Program 1. Under Administration, pages 140 to 142. I can have hands from the committee members in terms of questions on that section. I do not see hands. Going. Member Glenson. Member, or you need to unmute.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chair. Just before I get to 100, let me just take you to page 137, 7.1, on the sources of funding for the vote. The total funding is projected to slightly decrease, as indicated, without taking your time. MEC, will this not affect current running programs? And what is the reason perhaps for the decline? As the Western Cape is still one of the provinces battling to manage the crisis of crime, particularly violent crime. There is also a decline, it appears, in conditional grants. What are the programs that will be affected by the decline? And the second question is on table 8.2, province and municipalities funding dropped by 3.28, which could impact local law enforcement or safety initiatives. Now, how will this decline affect, in particular, rural municipalities who are struggling to fund their safety initiative? And you recall that the PNP, which we recently debated, painted a worrying picture about the state of law enforcement agencies in rural areas. And also on page 142, right? Okay, no, let me leave that one.
Remember, I'm going to allow that question on the first section because I suspect you missed the boat with the follow-up questions. But just hold on with that next question on page 142 when we get to that section.
Okay.
Member Kasim, is this a follow-up question from the previous round? Did you miss the boat there as well?
No, Chairperson, it's with the new pages.
Okay, we'll get there. Let's just conclude the last follow-up question then on the first section. HOD, if you can respond, you and your team can respond.
Thanks, Chair. Chair, can I ask Burford Noble to respond to the decrease in what programs will be affected? Burford, are you able to respond?
Thank you, HOD. Yes, I'm able to respond. Thank you, member, for the question. Yes, the decrease is mainly because of earmark funding that came to an end in the 24-25 financial year, and it relates to the LEAP stations. That funding is not going forth into the new budget year, member. The member also mentioned about the allocation that decreased in tables 8.2 to the municipalities. Again, that was in terms of the LEAP funding. We had 360 mil in the 24-25 financial year, member. Subsequently, in this current financial year, or the new financial year, apologies, we only have 350. The member also mentioned about the funding in the rural municipalities. I can assure the member that in terms of the rural municipalities, in terms of our projects that we have, we did increase in terms of this current budget for those specific municipalities. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Burford.
All right. Colleagues, now we are moving, so we're concluding the first section that we were dealing with. Now under program 1, pages 140 and 142. Member Glensu, you had a question there, and Member Kasim had. I'll get you just now. Any other hands on that section? Go ahead, Member Glensu. Member Kasim, if you can go ahead. Colleagues, can you hear me?
No, Chief.
Yes, Chairperson, we can.
Okay, I'm not sure whether Member Glensu and Member Kasim are hearing me. Okay, any other hands? Okay, Member Kasim, please go ahead.
Sorry, I just realized that the question that I wanted to ask was actually in the previous section, but it's fine. I think it has been covered in terms of LEAP.
Okay. All right. Member Glensu, are you online?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead with your question.
Thank you very much, Chair. We understand that the Western Cape has invested heavily on broadband ecosystem, with the cutting of the machinery and equipment budget by 43.94. Is that working against innovation and the broadband system? Will this not affect the efficiency of your administration, MEC? So that's the question I wanted to pose on 9.1, page 142. Thank you.
And then a question from my side, if the HOD can perhaps, on page 1141, there's quite a dramatic increase there in the office of the HOD. Now, I followed in the rest of the report some of the reasoning there, but I just want to have a crisp, I don't want to speculate in my own mind. If you can perhaps speak to the increase there in the budget of the HOD and for what purpose that would be in terms of the mandate of the department. Over to you, HOD.
Sure, Chair. So if I can first just respond to that last question. Now, here's the 2 million, that is a salary increase that I've been awarded because I've been acting. Chair, no, the 2 million that's been increased there, that is for the Provincial Safety Coordination Center. And we deem it important to have it in the office of the HOD until that program has been settled down and it's been properly implemented, and then it will go down to one of the directors. So that is why there's that increase. And as it relates to the comment in terms of the broadband program and then linking it to the decrease in our expenditure on computers, no, it will not impact on our effectiveness and our efficiencies at all. It's just the budget that we've required. That is the budget that we have put there based on the overall budget that's been made available. But I can assure you, it will not impact on our efficiencies and our effectiveness as it relates to ICTs within this department.
Thank you. That you confirmed my assumption. Colleagues, any follow-up questions? Member Kasim.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I just wanted to check, I think I asked this question in the previous committee as well. Is there any increase for law enforcement, or is it only the assistant chiefs that are receiving or received the salary increase already from the T14 to T16? Thank you, Chairperson.
Right, colleagues, before I hand over to the Minister and the department, any other follow-up questions? Right, I do not see hands. Over to you, to the Minister and the team. Over to the HOD.
Yeah, that is not our increases, Chairperson. That is the City of Cape Town. I cannot respond to that, Chairperson. I can only respond to the 2 million that's been allocated to me. The member Kasim is referring to the chief at the City of Cape Town. We cannot respond to the increases and why they were given increases. They've got their own budget, Chairperson.
Okay. Colleagues, I don't see any other hands, so we are moving to the next program, Program 2. Any questions by members of the committee? If I can have hands, please. Member Van Minnen? I don't see any other hands. Member Van Minnen, if you can please go ahead.
Thank you very much. My question is on page 143 regarding Program 2 on policy. Do we have any timelines on the issue of the Community Safety Act? I mean, it has been floating around for quite some time now. And what's the progress on those amendments? Thank you.
Member Glensu?
9.2, Chair. I think we should be frank and say the oversight is quite important in the fight against crime in the province. Now, if we agree, why has the budget for monitoring and evaluation remained the same over the years, as it has been moved? Now, because the growth of community policy relations is too minimum at 0.78%. Now, for our police to combat crime, they need to have quite good relations with the communities that they serve. Now, is there a possibility to revisit perhaps this item? That's the question from my end, given the centrality of building relations with communities, and thus these many forms of organs of people's power. Thank you very much.
Members, I'm a little bit exasperated, and I suspect Member Van Minnen and Member Glensu have been peeking at my homework, but that was literally my two questions that I wanted to ask. So thank you very much, members. It's good to have alignment in the committee. Just to maybe add on to the last question. Now, I realize very fundamentally, in a sense, we are doing oversight over a department that to a large extent does oversight. And in order to do effective oversight, you need effective data. It relates to my previous question. So if you can perhaps speak to monitoring, evaluation, and whether there is sufficient budget in that regard in terms of your plans going forward. So over to the Minister and a team. HOD.
Thanks, Chair. So, Chair, the timeline for the Community Safety Act will, I'm trying to get to the English word, it will tail the Western Cape Safety Plan, Chairperson. So we are busy with the Western Cape Safety Plan, version 2. We will, if everything goes according to plan, we'll be issuing the second draft, and it will also be sent to the committee for inputs on the second draft of the Western Cape Safety Act. The reason why it has to tail and there has to be a lag between the Safety Plan and the Community Safety Act is because the Safety Act needs to enable us to implement what we want to do in that Safety Plan. So the Safety Act will tail it. At this stage, we are hard for focusing specifically on the Safety Plan and making sure that we land it. And the Safety Plan is a Western Cape plan, so it encompasses all provincial departments, and as far as possible also, and where we can, also commit SAPs and also the City of Cape Town through the collaboration agreement initiatives and building it into the Safety Plan. Once we're done with that and we understand exactly what are the policy gaps that need to be filled, we will then move towards finalizing the Safety Act, the Western Cape Community Safety Act, Chairperson. So, Chairperson, why the budget for the M&E remain the same? Chair, I suppose it's the number of resources and also the fact that the M&E unit is highly dependent on internal resources. So we do not outsource that M&E service. It's a wholly in-source service and a Western Cape government employee service rendered by Western Cape government employees, so we do not outsource it. So it's more the stability in that specific unit in terms of the number of people. Should we get approval to fill some of the posts, that budget will increase. But at this stage, it's based on the number of people that we have internally compensated employees is a big part of that M&E. And Chair, whilst we do look at the numbers, we're also trying to improve the quality of our M&E process, and that's where Becky and his team working strongly, and that's where the capability maturity model also comes in. They're doing a lot of work in that space. So, Chair, it's about, whilst the amount is stable, it's about how do we change the process and how do we have more outcomes-based M&E processes to inform our planning and budgeting, but also the oversight role of the standing committee so that we provide the data. And once again, the whole issue of the Provincial Safety Coordination Center is to provide that data so that when the Oversight Committee requires any data, they should be able to send that information, ask that information, and we should be able to respond much quicker once we have that systems up and running. So yes, we understand the importance of data for planning, budgeting, strategy, and for the decision making, and also for the oversight role. And we're working hard within the confines of the budget because the province had a challenge last year. When it came to the budget, the bulk of the funding had to go to the education, to the health sector, and the social development because of the USAID funding. So all other departments received way less than that what they normally would have gotten. And we're trying to make do with what we have, but we're trying to do things differently with greater impact here. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Any other responses from the department?
Is there anything specifically that Chair that you wish that perhaps missed? That is there a possibility to revisit the figures? That was a question asked by the member. Also, is it at this stage, Chairperson? This is the figures that have been put in. If it's going to be revisited, we need to ask ourselves: if we revisit it, on what basis do we need to change the figures? And if we change it, what are we going to let go and what are we going to change? So that's going to be a very difficult situation for us to change that at this stage, Chairperson.
Colleagues, any follow-up questions? I do not see any hands. Right, then we're going to the next program. Program 3, Provincial Policing, from pages 144 to 147. Any hands there, colleagues? Member Stevens, you have a question? I think you were unmuted by accident.
Yes, Chair. Sorry
Yeah,
for
no
that.
worries, no worries. I don't see any hands on program 3. Just checking again. Program 4, Security Risk Management, pages 142. Member Gwensu, is it on program 3 or program 4? I was sort of in the process of moving on. Program 3.
What page, Chair?
Program 3 is pages 145 to 147.
Yes, I do, Chair.
Okay, please pose your question before we move on.
Okay. I'm sorry for doing this because I'm receiving my laptop, Chair, and the guy is standing outside. So, page 140. No. 150. Yeah. Okay. Look, 10.1, Chair. It appears that there's an increase.
So, 10.1. I think you're jumping ahead slightly.
Oh, no, it's fine then. No, it's fine. I have no question.
Okay, program 4, colleagues, security risk. You didn't read the documents, and I'm joking. Program 4, security risk management, pages 147 to 150. Member Benz, I think you also on the last section there, if I was listening to you. Colleagues, in terms of program 4, are there any questions? I do not see any hands. Right. Then on the last section, I think that's what we, Member Glenn, so I think that's where your question was. The last section, the other information section. Can I have hands, please? Member Glensu, this is where your question was that you wanted to pose. If you can go ahead.
Actually, this committee belongs to you and I, and the rest are just accompanying us. Look, Chair, as I was saying, 10.1 MEC and HOD, there appears to be an increase in senior management salary costs, Now, with what also appears as minimum personnel growth of about 5.3%, Now, and the growth of entry-level staff is also concerning at 1.3, whilst at a senior level is 11.4. Now, how does the department intend on managing the increase in costs for management while the staffing declines? That's the first thing. The second one, table A4, smaller municipalities often have limited resource revenue and depend largely on grants. How can this be addressed in this instance? Thank you very much. Or putting differently, why is there small allocation for rural municipalities as we know that they have limited resource revenue? Thank you.
Okay, colleagues, my screen disappeared. If you can just give me a moment to get that sorted out. Okay, sorted out. Over to the department. If you can respond, please.
Thank you. So Chair, as it relates to the personnel growth, so we're a very small department and very small SMS cadre. So in terms of our SMS, in this whole department, we're 11 people. So if you really look at it, if you add one person, it's almost 10%. It's roughly 9%. If you add just one person, so the growth in the SMS, whilst it seems as if it's a huge growth, it's not that it's not a high growth. It's either number of one or maximum of two in terms of the growth. So, and also the cost growth, you'll see the cost growth is not necessarily, it seems disproportionate in terms of 11.4%, but then you need to take into account the different allowances that we get at the SMS level, and then also looking at what's been covered in the lower levels. But then as it relates to the packages and severance packages, should there be a severance package and we need to pay out some of the things, so that will also impact. So a small change in the budget at SMS level will make a huge impact percentage-wise. Where at the lower levels, where we have more numbers, if you then add 10 people to a group of 100, it's also 10%. So it's a matter of the numbers. We are managing very tightly, Chairperson. What we have within our department, we have a process where we identify our critical posts, and we also, based on that identification, so if we have a list of 30 posts, we will sit as a management team, we'll sit around the table and identify exactly where we need those people. It's priorities and needs that we focus on, taking into account the limited budget, and we will then assign those resources in those specific areas, Chairperson, when we ask for concurrence from the DG and the Premier, and once we get that approval, then we will move towards that. I think the 11% that we have there, that we see the increase, is our anticipation to fill another SMS post, which has been vacant. It has gone through the advertising process. So once that SMS member has been appointed, you'll see that it will seem as if it's a 10% or 11% growth, but it's not necessarily because it's salary increases, but it's because we intend adding another member or filling that post within the next 2 to 3 months, because it is a critical post on our side. So Chair, we're managing it extremely tightly. It's not just as if we're filling posts, we look at each area and where we need to fill those specific positions. And there's a structured process within our department which we follow. Okay, and then the question on the smaller municipalities as lesser revenue. Chairperson, I understand that the smaller municipalities has lesser revenue, but it's not our responsibility to keep them afloat. We look at the projects that's important to our projects and the safety projects, and we'll fund that based on submissions that have been made, but we cannot take responsibility for keeping municipalities afloat. And because they have low less revenue, the question need to be asked is, what are municipalities doing to increase their revenue and their revenue sources, rather than asking us to put more money into it. And the question need to ask that I'll ask is, so if we put more money into it, are we making them more effective and more efficient? I don't think so, but we do look at what are the projects that they're putting forward, and we fund those based on assessing those projects and making sure that the safety projects at least are attended to. Thanks, Chair.
Just if I understand you correctly, the principle is your support would be project-based, but it's not to carry municipal line items that belongs to the own budget.
Correct, Chairperson.
Okay. Colleagues, any follow-up questions? I don't see any follow-up questions. I just want to ask the procedural officer. I did not receive any requests for public input. I'm not seeing any members that I recognize from the public. Can I just confirm that that is the case?
That's correct, Chair.
Okay, so colleagues, then I would like to excuse the Minister and the department. We will be going into the process of deliberations within the committee. So thank you very much to the Minister. Thank you very much to the HOD and the team.
Thanks, Chairperson, and thanks to Minister and also the members and also to the team for the work that they've put in, Chairperson. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you to our committee as well as our team. I must say, I think we're the best. I know we're the best in the province. So, Chairperson, you've got a tough job to oversight us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chair. Keep on.
Aye.
Colleagues, so before we get to the tabling of the vote itself as a separate exercise, so please don't confuse the two. The first step is based on the information that we've gleaned from this interaction. I would like to ask members to give inputs in terms of any recommendations or requests for information. So if I can have hands before I get to my own proposals. Member Stevens?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I don't know whether I missed it or not, but nowhere did they say anything about the infrastructure. And when we did some oversight visits, there was some of the police station where the infrastructure is really, really bad. And especially that police cells in the Kensington area. They've got police cells there that's not in use due to bad infrastructure. So they had to take the criminals to the Maitland police station. And that is real bad. And it's not only the Kensington police station. I think there's quite a few. So there's no way that they talk about the deteriorating police station infrastructure and how much funding is allocated to renovating and improving police stations across the province. Thank you, Chair.
Member Stevens, we must just keep in mind that police stations and its upgrading, that would fall under the National Department. And they did make reference to the CMM, the new monitoring system, to look at the capability and maturity monitoring of police stations. So they did speak to it. But can I suggest that we take Member Stevens's specific request for information, that we treat that as a request for further information? I don't see anyone disagreeing with that. Member Stevens, are you happy with that approach?
Yes, Chair. Thank you.
Member Van Minnen?
Thank you very much. I might be being a bit cheeky here, but maybe it's also a request for information. I would like to have a report on the recruitment process of the next HOD, because we did get one quite some time ago. And I mean, it's now almost a year since this Parliament has been in session. And so I think we need an update on that, because I think it does. It does. I mean, the acting HOD says it himself. It does affect the entire department. So I think we need that information. Thank you.
Right. I'm looking for other hands as well.
Chairperson.
Member Kaiser Philander.
Thank you very much, Chair. First of all, I'm covered in terms of the vacancy as expressed by the member, just speaking before me, Member Van Minnen. Secondly, Chair, can we perhaps request information on the allocation of LEAP officers and funding over the next 3 financial years, Chairperson? Thank you.
Okay, Member Quensu.
Yeah, thank you very much. Given also the statement made by the HOD and building on the point Member Fernandez just made, may I propose that we consider inviting the leadership of the City of Cape Town at the level of community safety to have a conversation with this committee about this whole notion of the LEAP officers, their deployment and so forth, and their effectiveness, so that we can be able to play a complementary role, having exercised our own political oversight. And that's the first thing. The second thing, I think I was not impressed by the response given. My follow-up, on the point I made about there are about 600 admin clerks which were sponsored the South African Police Service. And I think we need to get some details in respect to where are they deployed, and so that we can be able to establish the effectiveness or the change since the deployment of these admin clerks to the South African Police Service, given the challenges SAPS faces now. You know, so I feel that it's important. You know, why for me this is important? You know, on Saturday I visited Tembalethu. Only 7 police officers were present. Only 7. One bike, and have to make initiatives of taking a small car. So this for me is important, and whatever resources the province may have ought to play that complementary role, and we ought to follow that money. Thank you very much.
Member Kaiser Philander, is that a second hand?
Yes, Chairperson. Chair, just based on the request for, or rather the request by Member Denso with regards to the briefing request for the City of Cape Town. Chair, please correct me if I'm wrong. This program is made possible due to the provincial funding. So I think it links to what the department's plan is going forward. And one should rather establish that from the department as from the city. Chairperson.
I'm not sure that's something I make a ruling on. Colleagues, when this kind of thing came up previously, what we said was it must be within the mandate of the committee. Now, I agree with Member Kaiser Philander in terms of the sequence of it, that we first get a briefing from the province, but that it's not the leadership in general of the City of Cape Town, but certainly the head of the Metro Police does fall within our mandate. And what I would suggest is that we include the oversight of the LEAP program, as well as an interaction with the head of the Metro Police in our oversight program. That I believe we can fit in there. I believe that will be consistent with our mandate. I think the key thing is, colleagues, that we're here to discuss the provincial matters and that we don't conflate it with municipal matters, but that particular request would be in line with the legal mandate of the committee. So colleagues, if we can, I would suggest, I would word it like this, that we reaffirm our commitment to have the LEAP program as part of our oversight, content-driven oversight as well, and that we also have the head of the Metro Police as part of that oversight function as per the provincial oversight role. Colleagues, are we happy with that? Great.
Yes, Chair, we are.
Colleagues, then what I
Yes,
will...
Chair.
Okay, so colleagues, then what from my side, that I was... the committee safety, the Community Safety Act, and the review of that I regard as quite urgent. With the changing dynamic in the province, I certainly regard the Community Safety Act as not ideal in some respects, particularly with the emphasis of a transversal approach. So I would suggest that we get regular briefings in terms of the progress of the development of the Western Cape Community Safety Act, so that we can also as a committee be proactive and have the information to be proactive. So we don't want last minute surprises. It's something that I want that to be on the committee's radar as well. Then as a second point in terms of the CMM, so colleagues, I'm a little bit, my mindset is very much you need data to do effective oversight. There we go. Capability maturing matrix, the CMM. I would suggest that we also include in our oversight going forward, that we include not only those reports, but also in terms of how it evolves. Now, as part of the strategic orientation of the province, there is a need for transversal government. I think we need to see, in terms of certainly the joint oversight approach with the committees like social development, health, and education, I think we need to monitor the community needs-based component as it evolves, as well as the transversal interdepartmental component of that. Colleagues, are we in agreement on that?
Yes, Chair, we are.
Okay. And then we did cover it in previous committee resolutions. I think the memorandum of understanding is clearly going to be something we need to delve in. Otherwise, what we don't want is a situation where different levels of government operate and they're not in tandem with one another, certainly in terms of resourcing. I'm very, very concerned that we are not getting our full resource base and full cooperation from certainly that particular space, but we don't know yet until we interrogate it. But we have covered that previously. Member Boyson?
Chairperson, just a reminder, we did request to be issued with a copy of that memorandum. It's probably just a follow-up in our next meeting so that we get it.
Let's just make a note of that in any event. I would say a follow-up on the copy of the memorandum of understanding. So, some of us did get when it was signed at the time. I had got a copy, but I think we formally need to get it as well. Colleagues, any other requests for information or recommendations? I do not see any hands. Colleagues, so that item then we conclude. If I can go to the tabling of the item of vote 4 itself. Are there any proposers in this regard? I see Member Van Minnen proposes. Okay, maybe if you can just speak to it. I'm assuming you're proposing adoption. Perhaps I'm wrong.
No, you're not wrong, which is probably something you don't hear very often. I am indeed proposing that we accept it.
Colleagues, can I have a seconder for the proposal?
Chairperson, I support the proposal by Member Van Minnen.
Member Boyson?
Yes, Chairperson, I'm re-endorsing the position of the DA on accepting and adopting the appropriation.
Colleagues, are there any parties, any other parties who want to express themselves? Member Glensu, and then Member Kassim. Member Glensu.
Thank you very much, Chair. Not because the contradictions are sharpening in the GNU currently, and that anything is possible, but given the general trust of the budget, on behalf of the ANC and its alliance partners, we would like to exercise Rule 90, therefore not support the budget. Thank you.
Sim?
Thank you, Chairperson. Also for record purposes, the EFF does not support the budget. Thank you, Chairperson.
Viva EFF, viva. Long live EFF, long live.
Member Glensu, you're out of order. We're not sloganeering in the committee. So, colleagues, what we have is a proposal for adoption with the African National Congress and the Economic Freedom Freedom, my sincere apologies, the Economic Freedom Fighters expressing its minority view to not support the vote in terms of Rule 90. Member Stevens.
Sorry, Chair, we also adopt the budget.
You're also proposing adoption.
Yes.
So, colleagues, so then what you have in front of you There's a proposal for adoption, and there is in the committee report the exercising of Standing Rule 90. You have in front of you the committee report. Now I would like to table the committee report. Are we happy that the committee report is a reflection of the decision of this committee in terms of vote for? Member Van Midden?
Happy from my side.
So that's a proposal for adoption of the committee report.
It is indeed, Chair.
Member Kaiser Philander?
I second the adoption of the committee report, Chairperson.
Okay, colleagues, I don't see any other hands on that. Then I would like to sit, well, it's what we just decided. So colleagues, so that item then is concluded. Then I would like to check with the procedural officer. Are there any other housekeeping matters we need to deal with?
Thank you, Chair. We've done everything. It's up to date. The only thing is if you want to mention about the hearings.
Colleagues, in the programming process, we have the dates for the 29th and the 30th of April for our oversight, our public hearing process around the library bill. Please check your calendars in that regard. So what we are doing is 3 public hearings, and then to expand it beyond the public hearings, we are also looking at an online option with and asking libraries across the province to help us advertise it and make available their facilities for people across the province to also participate. So that's the model that we came up with, fitting the available time. But if you can please check your calendars in that regard, so we are progressing on that quite nicely. So that's just an announcement from my side. Member Glensu?
What do you mean, Chair, when you say we must check our calendars? Maybe I don't know.
As part of the programming, you will notice that it's being programmed as electronically as part of your calendar, and you will notice that it's appearing there, or it should be appearing there. I think I saw it. But the 29th and the 30th of April, please keep that open for the library bill, and then we seem to be on track from our side then as a committee in that regard.
29th and 30th, no?
29th and 30th of April.
Sure.
So colleagues,
there's a problem. There is a
what's the
problem in my
problem?
end. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Can we take it offline with you, Chair?
That's fine.
Yeah, let me take that offline with you. Yeah,
not a
thanks.
problem. So colleagues, that brings us to the end of the meeting. Thank you very much for a good engagement. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Chair.
Chair.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.